88.9.
Well, good evening and welcome to Hull and Back Podcast and Humberwave Radio's Tiger Talk. With you on a Wednesday night, as always, from 7 o'clock. Good to have you all tuned in tonight. And we must tell you that we are sponsored by the carmustgo.co.uk. And if you want to know a little bit more about the carmustgo.co.uk, here we go. I shall tell you all about it now.
Buy or sell your next car or van? At thecarmustgo.co.uk, we make it easy. We are proud to be your trusted local Hull business, with 5-star Google reviews from happy customers across East Yorkshire. We buy and sell quality cars and vans, all with a full mechanical check, MOT and warranty included. So call in and see us today at Rugby Street in Hull, or visit us online at thecarmustgo.co.uk. We buy, we sell cars and vans.
So if you're looking to sell your car or your van, then go to thecarmustgo.co.uk and they will certainly help you out with that. Evening, Paul.
Good evening, Eddie.
Evening to you, Becca.
Evening, Eddie.
And evening to you, Jan.
Evening, Eddie.
Hope you're all well tonight, and hope anybody that's watching at the moment, good evening to you. Hope you're all well tonight. Please drop us a message if you'd like to talk to us in the comments, and we shall try and cover your comment and try and go over it and things like that. I've got some comments that I'm going to go over from the YouTube from last week. We'll go over them in a little while because people was maybe having a little bit of constructive criticism towards me and maybe the team. So we'll maybe go over some of those constructive criticisms and see if we can deal with those as well. And we'll obviously look back at the last two games. Saturday's game, I saw the goal. I was very lucky. I saw the goal. I was at a couple of parties on Saturday, but in between the parties, I popped home for a little while and I popped over at the right minute because I just got home and then I sat down and then we scored. It was about the only thing that happened in the game from what my brother-in-law told me because he watched the full game and he said, "What a load of rubbish it was, Paul."
It wasn't the best display. First 5 minutes was all right, and then after that, it just went pear-shaped, to be quite honest. I think it got better later on in the second half when we put on a few substitutes. I think at the moment, McBurney and Geldhart are just not quite there yet. I think the trouble is they've had these injuries for a long while, and it isn't helping, I don't think. You think they go off about, beginning of May and come back middle of June for a pre-season, 6 or 7 week pre-season. And it's been a bit like them for them too. They've been out for quite a while and they've got to get up to it. And I don't think at the moment they are, personally. I think, I wouldn't have started with either of them, to be quite honest. I'd have probably put you on and Joseph because I think they just need a bit more time. And I think it's the same. We've got, half a dozen new players. They'll need a bit of time to bed in. I think the next sort of 3 or 4 games, we've just got to get as many points out of them as we can and not be too critical because it's that time of season, isn't it, when players have had injuries and they're coming back. And we've had a few of those. Giles, another one last night. You won't want to put them on too much too quickly because they can easily get another injury. And, that's not what we want. We want them to keep as fit as they can. And I just feel that's not helping us. But our passing on Saturday was awful. We couldn't pass anything. It was really poor. I thought Amir had a bad first half. It was a bit better in the second half, but I didn't think he did much in the first half. The whole team was just not on it at all first half. They got better, as I say, second half, especially when the substitutes come on. It was a really good goal, possibly offside. I don't know. I have seen the still. I thought it could just be onside, but I'm probably being a bit biased there. I suppose if a Blackburn supporter, you'd say there was probably just offside. So it was very, very close. I think if there'd have been VAR, obviously that would have sorted out whether it was onside or offside. But they give it. It was a well-taken goal, to be fair, by Kumas. He's come on, and he scored a good goal. Then he made a really good pass to Joseph. Joseph just couldn't put it away. The keeper's made a decent save. I think 2-0 would have definitely flattered us. I think we could have easily lost the game. They had an easy header at the 0-0. Should have popped it in the top corner and he put it wide. So, and they've had another 2 or 3 chances. They could have won the game, could Blackburn, but look, a lot of teams are helping us out here. They can't take the chances, can they? So, it's not our fault they can't score a goal. It's their
Definitely
fault.
not. Definitely not our fault that they can't score. Jan, you will have been down there at Blackburn. What was the view like from the stands?
It was miserable. It was wet. It was cold. It was absolutely freezing cold because there was no. Their stadium's not built in the corners, like gaps in the corners. I really was absolutely freezing. I think I've just seen Lee's comment. I think we made them look like a decent side. I did say on Saturday, I don't think they look like a relegation side, to be fair. If you normally, I wait for the replays, the extended highlights. Not all you needed for the last 10 minutes, because before that, everything Paul said, really, we didn't win the first balls, we didn't win the second balls, we didn't find any space. Our passing was woeful, our movement was woeful until we scored. And even when Kyle Joseph missed, and I think they should have put that away. After that, I don't think we thought they were going to score anyway. But it's a miserable place, and there weren't a lot there. There was even less last night, I understand, but because their fans are protesting against the ownership. But it wasn't a great game. It really wasn't.
No, I was going to say, Jan, you didn't subject yourself to the 90-minute replay on that, did you?
Well, it's not on yet anyway, but you would need to. You'd have to fast forward to the last 10 minutes, I reckon. I mean, Paul's right. For 5 minutes, we started. But I mean, I guess you're going to go on to the other game. But I just think we don't start with the right team, and that's I'm no expert, am I? So I stand to be corrected. But there's no press, there's no pace on that pitch, and well.
I said that press last night, to be quite honest with you, Jan.
It was awful. And
it wasn't good again. Come to you in a second, Becca. I'm just going to say evening to Lee, evening to you, Lee, evening to you, Ian. Evening to you, Louise. We'll put your comment up and we'll talk about it in a little while. I'll put the big comment up. And there's quite a few comments coming in. Don't worry, we will get to all your comments and I will go through them all. I'll try and go through them at the right times in the show to use them. Your thoughts on Saturday's game, Becca, please.
Saturday was very underwhelming and we got away really lucky, didn't we? But I just think we look really lethargic at the minute. We don't seem to be finding any rhythm. We're not stringing a pass together. We're not getting on the second balls. Something's going wrong. But it's a difficult one. It's not an easy one to call, really. Sorry.
Your cat's agreeing with you, Becca. That's all it is, yeah.
Absolutely. It does agree. So it's frustrating, obviously. I mean, it worked in our favour on Saturday when we managed to pull off a good goal. Whether you'd argue it was offside or not is a different question, isn't it? But how many times has that gone against us in the past where we've missed out on 3 points? You'd tackle the rough with a smooth, don't you?
No, you certainly do tackle the rough with a smooth. Yeah, certainly do.
I agree with Jan, though. It just seemed to be getting back into the habit like he did at the beginning of the season of putting out the wrong starting 11 and not really starting on the front foot and then having to chase our tails second half or 60-plus minutes. And I'm not too sure if that's down to the lack of match fitness and people returning back from injury or maybe not finding that balance right in the beginning. It's a difficult one to put it on precisely, but we need to really think on it and look at our approach in the last, 19 games we've got left?
16.
Paul will tell you that he knows.
Knew somebody would have the answer.
The good news is the defence seems to be holding up well, doesn't it? I think they put something on. We'd let, what was it, 1 point something in the first 19 games. In the last 11, it's been 0.6. So the defence has definitely improved, which obviously, we needed. So, it might get us through 1 or 2 games like Saturday. And even last night, we got a 0-0 draw of a game what we probably deserve nothing out of. So it's the defence is holding out, isn't it? So that's a good sign at the moment, I think. But it's definitely from the midfield onwards.
Do you not think if there'd been a better side last night, though? Because I know you said the defence is holding out, and I 100% agree it's better. But we don't win the balls in the air. I mean, there was at one point, one of their defenders was about 4 feet jumping. We don't head the ball well out of the defence. And one of them was way above ours. If they could have headed it on target, that would have been a goal. We've been lucky in a couple of games. We have been lucky in a couple of games. But let's see here what Jeff says. 10 unbeaten in 11,
2 bad games, 4 points. That's what champions do.
Absolutely, and I agree.
And I agree with what Jeff's saying. We'll go back up the list here because I saw a comment earlier. Louise said, reading some of the comments after the game yesterday, I think some people forget how far we've come since Sergei arrived. Working under restrictions, etc. Every team has off days. We're third. It's all good up the Tigers. And I agree with what Louise is saying. You know, I think that, you know, my bit of frustration at the moment is I think I've enjoyed some good football this year. I've seen us, you know, play really good counter-attacking football, break quickly, have shots on target. And I think at the moment, that's the thing that we're not getting. We're not getting those shots on target. Particularly at home. We're not breaking quickly. We're not really giving the fans much to cheer about. I saw your comment, I think it was on Twitter, Jan, and you'd put that the crowd didn't really get going until 80 minutes. But
they didn't.
But the crowd need the team.
Yeah, I do agree.
Give them something to get going. And then there was nothing there to get the crowd going last night.
But somebody else put, and I do agree with them, we're third in the league. If you can't get behind your team when you're third in the league, it's a poor show. You know, we really, really, I try, and I put something on tonight. I'm in the middle of the West Stand. The only thing you can hear is a moaning. Very, very rarely do they join in. Even at the beginning, when the team come out and we sing "Can't Help Falling in Love with You," they stand up, but they don't sing and they don't cheer. And I know people have talked about goal music and a drum, and I'm ambivalent. I'm ambivalent about that. I don't really care either way. But if we get one and you're absolutely opposed to it, it's your own fault for not getting behind the lads. Because sometimes they need us to get behind them. I can see it from both sides. So I can
see it from both sides as well. I think it needs a little bit of something. I think it's that situation where, I think I talked a little bit about it last week. We've maybe priced the people out of football that do bring the atmosphere. And I think, the splitting again of the stands when we've split it so many times and so many people have ended not with the friends. I think that makes a difference as well. You was going to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did try and get behind the teams at times, to be quite honest, last night. There was a bit, come on, City and all that. I just think, I think it's nervousness at home, it seems to be at the moment. There seems to be a lot of nervous about. And I don't think that's helping. I mean, I'm not complaining about how they're playing. I mean, I think, they've had a lot of problems, obviously, with restrictions, plus also a lot of injuries to our, better players. Our players that were doing it at one stage, Geldart and McBurney, and at the moment, they're just coming back off injuries. And I just think you've got to give them a bit of time. I think this month, whatever we get out will be a plus, to be quite honest, because I think, we've got 5 or 6 coming in and we've got to give everybody a little bit of time. And I think that's the problem. They expect them to come in up and running. But, some of them haven't played much football recently. They're coming on and, they're doing their best. I'm sure they're trying their hardest. I mean, Dowell last night, if we're going on to last night's, he just seemed out of it. But he's not played for the team, has he? Come on for 20 minutes against Blackburn? You've got to give these players time to get into the team. And I think the trouble is he's changing his team a little bit every match. And I don't think that helps. But again, it could be injuries. Could be somebody maybe lack of form. It's just one of them things. I think they're doing okay. I'm quite happy with them. I'm disappointed because I wanted to put a bit of pressure on Middlesbrough and Coventry and get to within 2 points of them. But at the end of the day, I'd have taken where we are all day long. And if we finish top 6, I won't be disappointed because I think they've had a really good season. They have had a good season.
I'm with you. I think that it's a bit early to say. With Dowell, how he's going to be. He didn't affect the game last night enough for me. I'm not sure if that's his position. He didn't play in that position very well. Carl Joseph being on the bench for so long, he was maybe he brought a bit more energy in the team and was lacking a lot of pace last night, Becca, weren't we?
Definitely, and I think you make a really valid point. Like, all three of you, we're playing players that aren't necessarily match fit because they've learned in and not necessarily been playing regular first team football for their own previous clubs. But then we've got so many players that have been nursed from knocks and injuries and returning from injuries. It's really hard to find that balance of what it works, and you can see that is probably playing the factor in the tinkering and the rotating per game. But it doesn't help you build any consistency. And Joseph brings so much energy to the team. he's been fantastic while like Joe Gellart and Ollie McBurney were injured. I do think it's just a shame that obviously he's only been getting a bit here and a bit there. I think he ultimately needs to start. But then it's a double-edged sword. When do you start getting those important minutes into the legs of the people that are returning from injury who do need to build the fitness levels?
It's a balancing act, isn't it?
It's a challenge.
I think Mike said last night that it needs to try and get some balance. I'll come to a couple of the comments. I think Ian was saying this about the one bit of skill from the game against Blackburn. That's what Ian was saying there. Oliver says 4 points picked up from two poor performances, which may not have happened before this season. We threatened to be typical City, but thankfully had enough grit not to lose. I agree. That was the good thing from last night, was that we didn't lose it. We got a draw out of it. I think we should start Joseph next game. His energy affects other players in a positive way. Yeah, I agree with you, Sarah. You're right there. I think I've done that one. Yes, I have done that one. Let's have a look and see what else. And she also says we need what Watford had, a loser. Is that a loser?
In midfield, absolutely.
Type player to dictate the tempo and get us going forward.
We used to have one of them. It was called Severy.
Lee says that the ref was poor last night. I've got to agree with you, Lee. I've seen that ref a few times, to be quite honest with you. I've never been impressed with his performance.
Or something, yeah.
You'll know better than me. He also says it was like a morgue last night. I don't think it was that bad, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Having a great season, we need to get behind him. It was a bit towards the end, but what a season! Let's stop being a library. More crowd noise at Wimbledon, says Louise. And what's your opinion of the music before the game? Don't know what that was
Liam Miller's list choice. It's awful. But
it wasn't music. So it was Liam Miller's choice, was it? Yeah. A couple of things that we'll go on to. I'll put this comment up. Sarah says, I bet you're glad to see the back of Endala, Eddie. Well, he wasn't my favourite player, Sarah, and I think that he'll get more of a chance at Sheffield Wednesday than he will have done at Hull City. And also, Matthew says he fully agrees with you there, Rebecca. I think we've got all the comments done. I've got to come to a comment that we had on YouTube, and he says, guys, discussion point for next week. This is from Richard Goff. Do we think it's disrespectful, not easy for me to say, not bothering to correctly pronounce Matty Jacob, not Jacobs, or Joe Geldhart's names?
The D comes at the end, not at the beginning. It's Gelhard.
Well, it says that we've got to, if so, could you call a training session on where to put the D in Geldhart and
just before the T?
And then put a memo that Jacobs doesn't have an S on it. So we'll take that on board and we'll try our best to pronounce these things correctly, Richard. And he says to me, stop acting like a cheapskate. You could have a far cheaper membership if I chose to. And you are right in what you say, Richard. I could choose to have a far cheaper membership if I chose to. And to be fair to you, I'm not necessarily bothering about me, and I know I moan about it. And I've said on the pod before, I can afford to go to Hull City. I can afford my season pass. I can afford the Chelsea game. I can even afford to go away if I really want to. When I fight for these things, it's not for me. It's for other people who struggle and who don't have the money to be able to go to these things. Some people are on the minimum wage, some people are struggling to live, and some people would like to go watch a football match. And a football match to these people might just be a thing that happens a couple of times a season because it's all they can afford. And I think that the price of football is going up. I think that, pricing people out of football is a bad thing. And I think that, we are really good to the young kids. But, them young kids then grow up, they get a job, they try and do what they can do, and they try and still go to watch their team. And if we price the people out, I think this is one of the reasons that the atmosphere isn't as good, is because we price a lot of these people out and things like that. So it's not for me. Yes, I can afford to go. I choose where I want to sit, and I've sat there for a long time. No, I'm not moving. I like my seat, and I pay for my seat, but I'm quite... you know, if I'm complaining about the price of football, yes, I do begrudge it a little bit myself, but it's more for other people than just for me, if I'm honest with you. And we was discussing this, Paul, weren't we, on the way to the stadium? You know, one of the players that's come in, I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the players that has come in, I've had it on good authority that he's on £20,000 a week. So, you know, when you're looking at £20,000 a week, we have to pay that money somehow. And I know the owner's paid a lot of the money out of, you know, whether it's his pocket, whether it's loans to the club, or however he's done it, he's paying some of this money. But also, if you're paying players 20 grand a week, then it has to come from somewhere. And if it doesn't come from the owner, then it has to come from the fans. And then the fans have to start paying more money. And I think we said last night that the price that players are getting paid to play football these days is just getting beyond the joke, isn't it, Paul?
Oh, yeah, I think it's taken over completely, hasn't it? I mean, the Wrexham story obviously is a good thing, but it's all backed by money, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
You know, they've got loads of money and they've got a good, fair chance, probably as much as others, getting in the Premiership next year, and they've got loads of money coming in. So it just proves money has made the big difference to them. You know, without that money, they might have got out the bottom division, might have got out the second to bottom, but they wouldn't have come this far without the money. And it is money that's killing the game. And I think you are right to a certain degree that supporters are paying for it. You know, prices are astronomical in some clubs to get a ticket and things like that. It's ridiculous, so I think it is having a big effect, is money. It is on all sports, to be fair, but football seems to be the leader where the money's concerned, and they just pay any ridiculous price. I think what Mike's saying, Ronaldo's on £470,000.
And he's gone on
a month.
strike.
It was minutes, Dad, that he was talking about that he was on it. It was an hour or something. That's what he was on.
I know, whatever it was, he was on a lot of money and he's gone on strike. You know, I mean, normal people can't just go on strike, can they? If they do, they don't get any sort of money, but he's got loads of money to fall back on. I know he's a really good footballer and he's probably enters a lot of it, but it is astronomical, some of the wages. And 20 grand for a player at Hull City, I don't know.
We might not be paying
that,
though. Quite often, the parent club pay the vast majority of the salaries, don't they? Because they want.
Well, that makes it even worse then, because it's obviously doing that club out of money into, and they haven't even got the player. Obviously, we've got to be paying some of his wages. We might be paying it all. I don't know, but as I say, I ain't begrudging this player getting it, but I just think in general, football has gone out where the money's concerned. It's gone ridiculous.
How do we stop it, Becca? I was just going to say to you, how do we stop this happening?
So the only way we can stop it really is seeing good value for money on the actual pitch, because if you know that you're going to see an exciting game of football with a team that have a good home record and proven home ability, then you'd not. It's difficult for working class people to often afford to regularly go to games, but if you're getting value for money in terms of the performance on the pitches, it's 9 times out of 10 good. How many home games have we played this season? I know we've won more than we have in previous seasons at home, but our last 6 home games, out of 6, we've won 3, lost 2, drawn 1. So is that a good return? Are we seeing value for money as fans? You could argue we're not, because they're better away from home again, as always.
They've got more points now away from home than they have at home. I think it was 24, 26. I think it's probably 25, 29 or something like that, in that sort of region now.
Exactly.
27, 20,
Yeah. And this is the thing, they've got the balance right on the concourse, offering, good match day opportunity in that sort of sense. But the club have got to up the game. I know we said it last week about, taking into context like the fan experience that'll see you get at other teams' home grounds, but there's a lot of work to be done off the field, really, to make it value for money.
Kieran Maguire, he talks about a lot of football finances. I read a tweet of his a couple of days ago, and he says that the average losses in the Championship are £570,000 a week. Player sales and owner subsidies help clubs survive, but football doesn't have a selling seats problem. It's a cost control problem. Isn't that right,
Yeah.
Jan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when Becca was talking, the only way I can see is like a salary cap. But then they'll move abroad or something, won't they, or something like that. I think Sky and all of that, they've a lot to account for, all the money they've put in, because it's certainly, I mean, all the money that comes in through TV and that, like, and I'll get the percentages wrong, but let me just say the very large majority goes to the Premier League, and then the other clubs, the other 72 clubs, get what's left. And what do the grassroots get? But to go back to the other side, the other side of your argument, AD, about the away fans, I would say, I mean, there were just over 3,000 on Saturday. The big majority of them were young people, so where are they getting their money from then? And because it's more expensive to go away for the ticket usually.
I think it's that different pricing structures and all. I think when I look at away tickets, they've even got different pricing structures for different people. But I think when you get just past the adult stage, that's where it becomes a bit of a struggle. I think that's where it comes up. We'll have a couple of comments on here that we've got. There's one here. Prices are going up next season regardless of what league we end up in, says Marshy. I agree with you. I think it will. Everything is going up. Even the club's official travel prices have risen, says Lee.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, but let's not get into that one again.
Oh, no, I can't be done with Wrexham beating our Story to glory. I suspect the season ticket goes up from 40 next season if we're in the Championship to 60 if we're in the Premier League. I would think somewhere around that is going to be the thing. Is the money for food, etc., still part of the SMC and separate from the club finances? I'm not sure on that. I'm not going to say I know because I'd be daft if I commented.
The only thing I would say, AD, on that is if you have a corporate day, I'm told, and you are a Hull City fan, it is way more expensive to go into the hospitality. To go into the hospitality for exactly the same food is miles cheaper if you're a rugby fan, a Hull FC fan.
Is it?
Can't be right. Yeah. I'm told that.
So that's obviously the club.
Well, is it then, or is it the SMC? That's what I'm saying.
That's the question. It's a good question. So would you rather watch players on 1K a week in Division 2 then, says Salmon? No, I tell you what I'd rather happen, Salmon. I'd rather there be, like Jan said, some sort of wage structure, a bit like there is in Super League, and try and structure it better like that, because I think at the moment, players are king. And I get what Paul's saying. Some players would go abroad, but all of these players can't go abroad. And some players will want to play in English football. And I think that, we have to make it more affordable. We have to make, I think over the next few years, there'll be a problem with Sky because, most people have got some app or another that they're using to watch football on. So Sky are obviously, will start to struggle with that a little bit. And I then think, how much money is going to get put into football in a few years' time when Sky realise how much money they're not getting in through people that aren't watching things legally. And I think that will come into it. And I think at that point, we may see a change in the wage structures that clubs are willing to pay because there won't be as much money coming through from the TV. And, our owner is bankrolling the club, let's say, but then if it all goes wrong and he decides not to bankroll the club anymore, then it's Hull City that is in the financial problem, and it's Hull City that could end up in the same situation as somebody like, Sheffield Wednesday or somebody like that. And, ultimately they could go out of business. And this is always a worry of mine when somebody's bankrolling it for as much money as they are. What happens when they fall out of love with it and it doesn't happen and it doesn't carry on anymore, Becca?
It's just, it's a worrying thought because at the end of the day, like you said, we do not have that income generation coming into the club from hospitality, merchandise, ticket sales to survive, and we will end up in a similar boat to Wednesday. So I really hope it doesn't come to that. But like you said, there needs to be some sort of governance structure in place to prevent that from happening in future. For future clubs, you would have thought, especially in recent times, that the FA, it isn't necessarily just like with the Football League. The FA would do more to put some sort of finance governance structure in place to safeguard football. And, broadcasting, like you said, it is actually experiencing experiencing a plateau financially due to obviously these third-party sites and apps that people access the games through. But people do that because they're outpriced by either going to the football matches or having a subscription service. So it's difficult to work around that.
It is difficult. Simon says he does agree that football was cheaper before Sky, and I think that's a big thing, Simon. You know, Sky has caused a lot of this problem. Louise says, have you listened to the interview with Baz Cooper that he did with John on the transfer day? It was a good listen. I've got to admit, Louise, I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. I do know it's there, but I've not listened to it as yet. You've had a listen, Jan. What do you think to it?
I mean, you know, I'm not a massive Ashton fan, but I listened to it and I said fair dues to him. He held his hands up and said he's got some things wrong. And the big thing, one of the things I did like, Baz had said to him, I think it was Baz, wasn't it? He said, is Sergey the best, your best appointment? And he sort of said yes, but then he said no. He didn't say no. He said my best appointment is Jared Dublin, and I thought fair dues to you, mate. You know. And then he talked about the role that Mustafa has as well, and Hodgie. So he held his hands up to say what he got wrong, and you know, everyone is a lesson learned. He even apologised for not having a bit of magic on the last day of the transfer window. It was a good interview, and you know, I give him credit for that. You know, I do give him credit because he's passionate. It's just some of the things he's done I just think were a little bit wayward. But
I agree with you. He's definitely passionate. Yeah. I like his passion for Hull City. He seems to be Hull City through and through. Hopefully he's learning, and hopefully people talking to him and giving him some advice. He might learn from that advice, and he might start to do things a little bit, you know, better. I understand he's got to be a bit of a showman because of the position that he's in, and because he is a media mogul. You know, he's got to do all that. I understand that, but there's ways that you do it, and I think that there's times that you do it, and I think he's got to change a little bit of that. And hopefully he can change it. He can keep it good, and we don't have any problems, and we don't worry about him going away. Oliver says he thinks some owners treat football like it's pure entertainment and they feel they can charge whatever they want. It's been a big issue for a few years and the authorities haven't done anything about it. I'm upset with you. Sorry, I was just going to say, John, let me say this one. I'm upset with, I think it's the FA that I'm upset with, because I think Palace was going to give the gate receipts across, weren't they? And the FA stepped in and said they're not allowed to. And I think that is a problem. You know, the governing body of football in this country really needs to take a look at themselves when they're enforcing something like that and stopping low league clubs getting gate receipts from a big club that could actually, you know, help them and be a really big help to them. I think, you know, ultimately, you know, I'm not happy about that. What's your thoughts, Paul? We're not heard from you for a bit.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree. I think the FA haven't got a lot of things to answer to be quite honest. You know, when you think the Sheffield Wednesday thing, you've had Bury go out of the league. I think they've come back now, haven't we? But, you know, they've had all sorts of problems over the years. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday is one of the worst ones, I think, to be quite honest, because it's always been a sort of good club, I think, hasn't it? It's been there for a long, long while. And, you know, to let it go into the state it is now, you know, it's hardly got any players. In fact, I think they sold most of the best players in the January transfer window. You know, it's such a sad position for it to be in. You know, I mean, I know as a football sport, you say, well, we're better, you know, we're doing better than them. But I think football's sort of like a family thing. You know, as the 92 or every 100 and odd teams, you know, you don't want the teams to go out of business. Because
no, you can have as much banter as you want, and you know, have as much you know, our team that play in white from across the crossing West Yorkshire there, we can have as much banter as we want, but we still won't want to see a team go out of business the same as they won't want to see us go out of business. So, you know, I get that. What was you going to say, Jan, before?
Well, yeah, what I was there was two things really I was going to say. First of all, if Simon Jordan has a big thing about the FA and about Sky, and he was on he told you the percentage of people that have stopped buying Sky and using all sorts of other dodgy means to watch the programmes with. But he said if they took charge of their own media, it would be so much cheaper for everybody else. He's got a model that does that. But the other thing is when you're talking about Crystal Palace, well, when it came on Twitter, I put, well, the FA needs to put their own house in order. Now, if there is a rule that says you can't do that, I accept that and they have to enforce it. But rather than it come out as it did, they should have said, you can't do that. However, we will talk with you and explain how you can make a donation, or you can send that equivalent amount of money to the other club, rather than just saying, no, you can't do it. It's
Yeah, I think,
I
that they should have done something like that, because
they
ultimately,
could have told them, yeah, you're breaching the rules by doing that, but there is a means that you can then fund that. Yeah,
there was a lot of talk online about, Palace should offer to buy a young player from the club for a year or what. Yeah, and I thought, do you know what? If that's the things you have to go, the lengths you have to go to work around stupid rules where Premier League clubs that are gaining revenue from European matches, what is going on with the world, really? Why are they getting this so wrong?
Don't know. It's very strange, isn't it, how they can get such things like this wrong. Ian says they're talking about making the pitch part of the supporters' organisations at clubs to stop owners buying clubs to sell grounds. I think that's a good thing. We need to stop owners from buying clubs to sell grounds. John has the right people around him at the club, says Louise. And I think, it certainly could. It could be, hopefully he has, and hopefully that starts to work. Should we start Collier next game in that midfield position? Apart from Slater, it's up for grabs. I'm not sure whether Collier's still fully fit, is he? So I'm feeling that that's the reason that he maybe hasn't been there. John says we've got 27 points at home and away. Simon says, Simon says the FA.
It was pretty close. It was pretty close the other day.
There you go. Simon says the FA just look after the top teams. Look at Man City. And Tenerife Tyler says, I wonder what the policy is as to whether they wanted to allow Palace to do that or not. They have a policy to follow, unfortunately. So I think they need to review some of the old policies. And that's the thing, isn't it? They sometimes keep in old policies from a long time ago and they don't adapt. And I think that's the problem with all of these bodies. I have to deal with two of them, which really drive me insane. One of them, I can say it on here, is the DVSA, and the other one is Ofcom. I have to deal with both of those, and both of them are an absolute nightmare. They're both stuck in the ways. They both don't change things, and they both don't change with the times. That's why we've got a 6-month backlog on driving tests at the moment. But yes, I'll get off my horse to do with my day job, and I'll talk more about Hull City. But this is the problem with all of these big, bodies that govern things. They've probably got a little bit too, I don't know, what's the word that I'm looking for? They've got a bit too
bureaucratic.
Yeah.
And I think they need to change the ways to make sure that, football survives is the thing, because people shout at me for talking about the price of football and the price to go to football. But ultimately, there's lots of teams that have gone out of business because there's not enough money there. And not everybody has got whatever it was that I read out earlier. I can probably get it back up if I'm really quick. £570,000 a week, which is the average loss for a championship side. Some of these clubs that are in League 2 and League 1, have they ever got a chance of coming through to the championship when you've got to, make losses like that?
Not when you've not got an ownership group like Wrexham. It's impossible for them to come up and survive even in the championship.
It is. It is. And I think, so when people are slating me for talking about the cost of football, please think about that, because I think it's a really big thing. And I'm sure, we'll get some comments after the podcast tonight when people watch it again, and I will try and address your comments as much as I can, because, I try and do a fair podcast. I try and get everybody's comments up, and I try and, get everybody involved, because I think that's what we're all about here. It's not just for us four on this pod here. It's for all of you, and it's for all of you to get involved. And, we aren't going to agree on a lot of things, but, I'll always take your comments into consideration. As I say, my point's always right, but, you can have your say. It's no problem. Over to you, Paul. We're coming thick and fast with games in February at the MKM Stadium. The pitch is going to be worn out, isn't it?
Yeah, because Hull play the week after, don't they, on the pitches on the Saturday
And I
after
think
our Chelsea game.
Rovers have a game as well, don't they? This
Yeah, I think
World
Rovers have got
Challenge.
that club challenge there, haven't they? Yeah, it's gonna take a bit of hammering. I don't think it's going to be as bad as the Preston pitch somehow, to be honest. But it's definitely going to take a bit of hammer over the next month. Now I've got a tough game on Saturday. Bristol City, they're no mugs, are they? I know they got beat 5-0 last week at home, but they're a decent team. They're a good championship team. And we struggle against them, don't we, to be quite honest? So I think whatever we get will be a positive. As long as we get something, I won't be unhappy. I think the next 4 games, they all beat us at their ground, I believe. Watford, Bristol, QPR, and Derby. I think they all beat us on their ground. So we've got to make sure nobody does the double over us. It'll be a tough game on Saturday. Obviously, you can't play, can he? Because he's here on loan from Bristol. So we could, I hopefully we'll get something out of it. They might be still smarting a bit after losing 5-0 at home. Obviously, is it Todd? What's his name? Who used to play for us? Scott Twine. Yeah. And Mike said yesterday we've got to make sure we don't get any free kicks outside the area because he pops them in the top corner or something. Didn't do it very often for us, I don't think, but you know about players coming back, and he is in the team regularly, so he'll be one to watch. But I don't know if he can get the right team out there. I'm a bit on the thing that he puts the wrong team out in the first half, so he can make some changes at half time or just into the second half. Because the second half team usually is better than the first half team. I don't know why. It seems to always happen. But we need to get it right to get some more points and keep going near the top. But as I say, if we got a point, I wouldn't be disappointed, to be quite honest. I think at the moment we've got to get through February and get as many points as we can. Hopefully, then everybody will be up to speed. And we haven't got a game in next week, have we? In the midweek, I think it's a Friday night game against Chelsea, so got a bit of time to work on them.
53 points, I believe we're on at the moment, Becca. I haven't looked at the Championship League. I will look in a minute, but I'm sure I'm right with that. 53 points. No, it's 54, isn't it now? 54.
54 points now, yeah.
So 54 points. How many more points do we need to achieve the playoffs?
It depends, doesn't it? You're probably looking around at least 80 to 90. Last season, it was the marker was quite high in comparison.
That was to get the top 2. I think you get about 75. I would think would get you into the top 6. So about 21.
It's a tight one to call this season.
7 more wins. We've got 3 or 4 home games in February because one of them's the Chelsea game. 3 more home games, so we can get 9 points out of February at home. How many points out of February we're going to get?
I think we'll probably hopefully get, if we can get a minimum of 6, I would be happy. But we need to get a couple more wins under our belt, I feel, and that probably will come at the cost of either maybe a draw or a loss somewhere. I'm not anticipating we'll absolutely win every single game at home. Last night and the game before is a testament to how knackered we actually are, but we just need to come out a bit more positive. If the performances can be a bit better and not be so leggy, and we can get 6 points out of the next 3 home matches, I'll be quite happy with that.
Yeah, I think I'd be more than happy with 6 points. I think I'd be happy with 4 points out of the next 3 at home, to be quite honest with you. I'd take that because I think we've been a little bit leggy recently. I think we've got some hard games coming up. I think there'll be a little bit of thought on that cup game against Chelsea, and the players have got that in the back of their mind at the moment.
Yeah,
because, they'll all want to take part in that game. They'll all want to play against the Premier League team. So, I think I'd be happy with 4. What about you, Jan?
9.
You gotta love Jan, haven't you?
Yeah, but we have to put it into perspective. And we're all elated where we are. None of us ever dreamed. So you've got to have that caveat. But we went to Preston that Tuesday night. It was god-awful weather. It was raining. It must have been like running around in wellies on that pitch. And yet they were upbeat. They were pacey. That's my issue. Why can we do that? And then the next game we can't. That's kind of... If we play like we played at Preston, there's no reason why we can't get 9 points. But My thing with not putting the best, or not necessarily the best, but starting with pace, I assume it's because you then put it on in the second half, or like last night, it was 80 minutes nearly, and the other team are shattered. Well, actually, they're not, because they've put that many subs on as well, haven't they? So they've got fresh legs as well. So bringing somebody like Kyle Joseph on to, to stop, to press after, 75, 80 minutes is a waste. You want him on at the beginning to frighten them and rattle them and get us a good couple of goals start, because we're not giving them an inch. I mean, last night, I cannot for the life of me think why he brought Kumas on before he brought Kyle Joseph on. Because, like everybody's saying, Dowell is, we've got to give the lad a chance. There are people saying he's rubbish already, and he's good. We don't know.
Yeah.
But equally, you can't judge Kumas on 1 10-minute performance and then bring him on before Kyle Joseph last night. That's the bit I just did not get. Because, to be honest, he was as bad as the rest of them last night, was Kumas.
He was as bad as the rest of them. I think the problem was last night we didn't seem to be able to string a pass together. I agree with what you said earlier. We didn't get the press right. I think we needed to press more.
Space. We were defending
too much space. Yeah, too much space. Was defending too deep. I said that last night. Mike disagreed with me slightly. I think. What did he say, Paul, when we was talking? Can't remember what he said, but he said it was something slightly different to what I said. But I said, the press didn't seem right to me, and we just didn't seem to get it right, and we didn't seem to get a pass together. We just didn't seem to like each other for some reason. I don't know why.
He was flapping, wasn't he? If we put a bit of pressure on that goalie early doors.
Yeah, we didn't take advantage there. It really cost us in the end.
Right, a few more comments.
Change like for like, neither do we. We don't change like for like much.
No.
You're swapping and changes. You put one on the wing, then, bring somebody else on. You say swap them to the other side. And it don't get anything together, I don't think, getting players playing together. And I think that's what benefited us early on in the season, when players got together, they knew what they was playing with and that sort of thing. And last night it was sort of a mishmash. I say we brought Kumas on, he didn't do a lot, but is he a right winger? Is he a left winger? Is he a centre forward? The lad had a lot of time, has he? Come on with about a quarter of an hour to go at Blackburn, and a similar amount, maybe a little bit longer last night. But you can't judge these players on how they played last night, coming on in a team what was, really playing badly at the time. I just think it's so hard. He doesn't swap like for like. That's one of my disappointing things. He sort of takes somebody off and then slings somebody else in the position that they've taken off and put somebody else on the right wing. It's not like for like, and I think you've got to have a bit of like for like, to be quite honest.
Right, a few more comments. Sorry, Becky, you want?
You've got to find some consistency somewhere. Like Paul says, if you tinkering here and there constantly, where do you get that consistency? Where do you build your form as a player?
Needs a settled side, probably. It's hard to get one when you've had the injuries. Right, a few more comments there. Tenerife Tiger says, do we all think it's written in the stars? Sorry, that this season, Rosie coming home with Chelsea too. He'll complain about the pitch, is what Tenerife Tiger says. I don't know if it is all written. I don't know if it is all written in the stars this season. It does seem a little bit like the 2008 season, but just not quite there yet. And I think at this time of the season, we probably weren't quite there in that 2008 season. I think we did have a little stutter, and then it just seemed to all come together in the last sort of 6 games, and we just seemed to be a lot better in those. We had a spell around Christmas where it was good. Then I think went a bit flat, if I remember rightly, and I think then we picked it up again. And I'm hoping we can maybe do that again, this season, because we're just having a little bit of a flat patch at the moment, but we're still managing to get some points on the board. Sarah says, I want to see more youth players coming through. Hugh Parker looks good.
It does, but I think it might be a step too far for him. We go and watch the academy. He does look good, and I think he is one for the future, but it might be a bit too much pressure and a step too much for him at the minute.
Jeff says 68 points last season for 6th. Well, we're only 14 off that.
Nice, 3 teams in the 90s, won't they? This year.
Bristol City are clearly vulnerably defensively after losing 5-0 last week, so we definitely have to be aggressive from the first whistle and show lots of attacking intent. I did see another comment which I think I missed. Let me just see if I can find it. It was something about that they'd lost a couple of their best players in the transfer market.
Yeah, we did lose, definitely lost one.
There it is. Louise says Bristol just lost two of their best players in the transfer window, she thinks. So that could be good for us as well.
Do you not think, Eddie, we played, those games where we had those wins when we didn't have the big name players? We've been without Giant.
Yeah. No, we have. Yeah. No,
so we had to play a settled-ish side.
Do you know what we're missing? We're missing Matt Crooks at the moment. And Matt
100%.
Crooks, unfortunately, is out for another month.
Yeah.
And I think we're missing Crooksy in there, to be quite honest with you.
Do you know what I think? He should have come on for 5 minutes because he was injured, got booked.
Yes.
And then given him his suspension while he's recovering. That would have been sensible, wouldn't it?
Would have been sensible. Tom says, very poor performance last night, but it would have taken that in the original fixture. It was a free last night. Totally agree with you, Tom. And you've hit the nail on the head. The ice just came at the right time for us. I saw, and I think it was a bit of tongue-in-cheek from Hull City last night. They said that every Watford fan was getting a tin of de-icer to take home with them. I did see that on social media somewhere, which I thought was very funny. And well played by the media team there, because, that's probably what they needed to take home with them, because it might be a bit frosty in a few days and they might be happy about that. But yeah, I mean, I definitely took a draw in the first performance because, ultimately was a bit low on players at that point. And I think, to get an extra point on the board for me was a good thing last night. I think I've put on the comments underneath the podcast tonight, respect the point, because I think that's what we've got to do, is respect that point. We got the win away from home, which, when we played like we did on Saturday, that win was, nice to get. And you've got to draw at home. You're just doing it a different way to what Steve Bruce always said, because he always said you win at home and you draw away, and that'll get you up. So we've won away and we've drawn at home, and hopefully that's the thing that will get us up. So,
to be fair, last 3 games we've got 7 points, and if you looked at the games, if you looked at the games, 7 points was a massive boost, wasn't it?
Yes.
We could have lost all 3 probably on the night, and we've got 7 points. So, you can't be too unhappy. They're going to have bad displays. You're not always going to win. You're not always going to play well.
No.
And every team goes through a bit of a blip. So hopefully this is ours.
Hopefully so. So now we'll come on to Sarah Says Bristol predictions. So we'll start with you, Becca.
I am going to go with a 2-0 win. I think Joseph will come on and have a blinding game as always, as he has been quite consistent of late. I think we might actually pull something out of the bag against Bristol. I really do think we might just have a good performance and get a good 2-0 win under our belt.
Jan.
Well, I'm going to say we're going to win out. We've got to. I'm going to go 3-1 as per always. I hope Gilo starts.
I don't think he's fit enough yet.
And I hope he gets that bit of fluency into, so he get those crosses into McBurney and like Becca. My first name on the team sheet will probably be Kyle Joseph, because he just puts them off. He doesn't give them a minute on the ball, and we haven't got that.
Paul.
Well, I think we might win actually, only because I think they'll be wanting to play against Chelsea. If they put a dour display in, he'll be looking at them thinking, you're not playing against Chelsea. So I think they might be right up for it, so that they get the game against Chelsea. Because I think, that might be putting them off a little bit as well at the moment. Because it is a big match, isn't it, against the Premiership team. Yeah. They'll want to play in it. So I think they might, I'm not saying it's stopping them playing, but I think they might be at it on Saturday to make sure they get the names down on the team sheet for the Chelsea game.
I'm going to get splinters in my backside, and I'm going to say 1-1 as always, because it normally works for us. So, yeah, I'll say 1-1. We ain't got very long left, so I'm just going to ask you this. What would you change from last night's team in players, a couple or 3 players, Becca?
I would definitely have started Joseph. He just adds that tenacity that we miss when he's not playing. Especially with a player like Crooks out, you need somebody who's got, that running ability. Jacob did well. I think people often give him a bit of a bad rap, but he was up against a really, really good winger last night. So I think he did well. That being said, obviously Giles would always be your first choice, but he needs to get back to fitness first off.
Okay, we'll take them two from you, Becca, because we ain't got long left.
There's not much in it.
I agree with what you said about Jacob. I think Jacob will start Saturday. I don't think Giles is quite ready for it yet. You could see him last night and he didn't look quite ready for it. Jan, what's your 2 changes for Saturday?
Kyle Joseph. And dare I be brave and say, bring Cathal McCarthy into midfield. Yeah, play there.
You can be brave and say that. You can say whatever you want.
You won't do it, and that's fine, because I ain't got a clue I've had, but yeah, that's fine.
Paul?
Well, obviously, you's not going to play, so Joseph, you've got to bring him back, haven't you, instead of you, I would say. And I'd probably, if I had to, I'd probably start Lundstrom instead of, what's his face, the other kid who started.
Hazimatovic. Oh, Dowell.
Yeah,
Dowell instead of Dowell, because I think, you know, he did play well when he came on, did Lundstrom, to be fair. I thought he had, you know, his second half performance was made up for his first half performance at Blackburn. So, you know, I'd start him instead of Dowell, because I think he needs a bit of time, does Dowell, to be quite honest. I felt that you can judge the kid on 20 minutes, 1 half of the game.
I agree with all of what you said. I'm not sure whether I'd put Cathal McCarthy in. I'm not sure about that one. I think I'd go with yours on Lundstrom, Paul. But yeah, all good points and well made. And thanks very much for all your comments tonight. If you're watching again, then please leave us a comment online, and we'll try and get to them next week. We're back next week, 7:00 here on Humberwave Radio and to Hull and Back podcast. Thanks for your help tonight, Paul.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks for coming on, Becca.
Cheers, Eddie.
And thanks to you, Jan.
Thanks, Eddie.
Have a good week, everybody. And up the Tigers. Let's hope for a win on Saturday against Bristol.